if I'm going to do this and I'm going to stick with it and I'm going to make a change, but not just a temporary change like the past, but a change that lasts, that I will maintain, then I really need to boil this down and determine what is my why. Because if I have a strong why, I'm going to continue to be reminded of that why. Then I can not only accomplish the goals that I'm setting out to accomplish, I can also maintain them.
Today's guest is Nate Pelkey, one of our very own FFP brothers. Over the past 8 months on the program, Nate has lost 85 pounds. He's dramatically improved his fitness and stamina, got off taking Advil daily, and he's now charting a new course for a healthy future for his ministry work and his family. Here's how he did it.
Peak point for me when I really took a hard look in the mirror and said I need to do something. I'm looking at the scale saying this is the biggest I've been in years. It's telling me I'm 10 years older than my wife, and I feel 10 years older than my wife, and something's got to change. And right around that time, I'd been seeing ads for Fit Father Project, and I'd mentioned it to my wife, and she said, well, definitely think about it, but if you're going to do it, you got to be committed.
Hey Fit Fathers, this is your official invitation to come to our first ever conference called Fit Father, Fit Mother Live. Join us in August 2025 for 3 transformational days designed to help you overcome one of life's greatest obstacles, staying consistent and motivated with your health amidst the challenges of life. At Fit Father, Fit Mother Live, we're bringing together world-class health experts to help you become more focused, more disciplined, and take your results to the next level. Day 1 of the event focuses on mindset and mental health, because as you know, real change starts in your mind. We'll give you strategies to reduce stress and unlock greater discipline, motivation, and mental clarity. Day 2 focuses on physical health and longevity. You hear from top doctors and experts on the latest methods to speed up your fat loss, build muscle, enhance your longevity, and overcome obstacles like nagging injuries. Day 3 is all about the power of community and accountability. You'll make real connections with like-minded fit fathers and fit mothers who will become your friends and support you long after this event ends. We'll also have dozens of top-tier health companies on-site as vendors, showcasing the latest products, technologies, and innovations to support your health journey. This is so much more than just a conference. This event is your chance to connect with your fellow fit family, to recharge your batteries on an unbelievable wellness vacation, and take your fitness results to the next level. Don't miss out on the best fitness event of 2025. Register now at fitfatherproject.com/2025 to secure your spot today. All right, Nate, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. I am so happy you're here.
Yes, I'm glad to be here too. It's a blessing.
I'm looking forward to this conversation and hearing about your journey with Fit Father and the impact it's had on you and your family. So to get right into it, please introduce yourself to all the guys who are listening, your name, your age, where you're from, and anything you'd like to share about your family and what you do for work.
Sure. My name is Nate Pelkey. I am from Unity, Maine. I'm married to my wife, Erica, now for about to be 24 years, and we got 3 kids. Our oldest, Elijah, is 20. Next one is Caleb. He is just about 19, and our daughter, Elizabeth, I tell her she's 7, but she's 16, and actually, I just don't want her to be that old.
That's awesome. And what do you do for work?
Yeah. So I'm a pastor of a church up here in Unity, Maine, Bible Baptist Church. We actually moved to this town going on 16 years ago now to start the church. We were sent out as church planting missionaries out of a church about 45 minutes away, and came here, and here we are 16 years later planning a building project and all kinds of fun stuff. So yeah.
That's really cool. Exciting that you've been able to grow and build that for so long, and obviously help people in a very significant way for you. How did you start to shift your focus onto health? Like what motivated you to start getting healthy, and where were you kind of at when you found Fit Father?
Sure. Well, I've kind of gone through a cycle over the last, we'll say 15 years, where there have been a couple of times that I've gotten serious about my health. And the first time I started eating well and exercising, but it was always after work because I've worked at another job. Most of the time I've been a pastor as well. So I'd get home from work and, after dinner and putting the kids to bed, 7-8 o'clock at night, I would jump on an exercise bike or treadmill or grab some weights, and did a lot of body weight stuff at that time. But I found after about 6-8 months, I couldn't sustain it because I was not sleeping well because I was all wound up after working out, and then I'd be up in the morning for work. So I burned out after a time, and then several years later, I gained all the weight back, lost it again, doing like a paleo keto diet, and coupled with some exercise. And same thing, I found after a while it just wasn't sustainable. Put the weight back on, and last fall we celebrated our 15th year since we started Bible Baptist Church, and um, just shortly before that, I'd really been thinking I needed to start doing something about my health. I wasn't feeling good. I was tired all the time. My wife has always kept herself pretty fit and pretty active, and she's doing stuff that I knew I really should have been doing, but I didn't have the energy to do it. I didn't feel like doing it. I hurt after doing it. So I would let her do it, or my kids would do it. And I knew that wasn't right. I was, dealing with some personal conviction over that I needed to make some changes. And then when we had our anniversary service, I had the pastor and his wife and kids that had sent us up here out of their church to start this church. And I stood in front of the church and said, we had a missionary a couple of years ago who has been on the field for 40 years. And that really spoke to my heart. Just, I don't know why that time frame, 40 years. A lot of guys are at it for 30 years, and then they are done. I don't know, 40 years just has really stuck with me. So we were celebrating 15 years. I stood in front of the church and I said, I want to be here for 40 years if God will allow me to. That's what I'm praying for. And at about the same time, we have this smart scale that connects to an app in your phone. And I don't know how accurate all the metrics are, but it had been telling me I was 49 years old metabolically, and it's been telling my wife she's 39 years old metabolically. So we're the same age. Well, she's 3 months older, and I like to remind her of that. But, I saw that and I'm thinking, I don't want to leave my wife without me, long before she needs to be without me. So that, my kids getting older, thinking about grandkids down the road, thinking about wanting to pastor this church for 40 years if God will allow me, a building project coming up, and I'm not feeling adequate to go out and work in the garden alongside my wife, or grab a weed whacker and weed whack the yard. I mean, I would do those things, but I would feel awful afterwards. And all of that coupled with some other health things, bad back, shoulder problems. My neck hurt all the time. I mean, I would take 3 to 4 ibuprofen before I'd go to bed, or else I'd wake up with a bad headache. And then I would take, another 4 to 8 during the day to continue to not be in pain all the time. And so all of that kind of just snowballed, and it kind of the peak point for me when I really took a hard look in the mirror and said I need to do something was the anniversary service. Right at the same time, I'm looking at the scale saying this is the biggest I've been in years, and that's telling me I'm 10 years older than my wife, and I feel 10 years older than my wife, and something's got to change. And right around that time, I'd been seeing ads for Fit Father Project, and I'd mentioned it to my wife, and she said, well, definitely think about it, but if you're going to do it, you got to be committed, and she said, think about it, pray about it. And I just really got convicted that, I've been given this body by God to use for him. And if I'm seriously going to serve him the length of time that I believe he wants me to, then I needed to make a change, because there was no way I could do it and not burn out. There was no way I could maintain what I was doing. So anyways, I finally pulled the trigger on Fit Father Project, and the first 30 days went awesome. I mean, it was hard, but it was worth it. I was feeling better. I think a combination of diet, eating clean. It was recommended to not take the ibuprofen, so I stopped taking the ibuprofen. And my chiropractor gives me a turmeric supplement, has been for a while, and so I just cold turkey went straight to that, along with the diet and the exercise, and I haven't taken any ibuprofen since last November. It's just,
Wow.
and I can count on one hand the times I've had headaches in the last 6 months. I mean, I was miserable, you know. So it has been life changing for me, and I have so much more energy. It's been really different. So, yeah,
That's amazing. I mean, just outside of the weight loss, the fat loss, and the physical fitness,
yeah.
just your internal environment, your chemistry being so different that you don't need the NSAIDs, and it just shows there's a lot less inflammation in your body. Your
Oh,
hydration
yeah.
is probably phenomenally better, and like
Hmm.
that equates to years of life. So you're literally
Yeah.
on target with exactly what you wanted. I want to ask you
Yeah.
a question insofar as you can answer and try to pull this apart. How much
Sure.
of your success on this program, which I'd love you to share how much weight you've lost as well, do you think
Yeah.
is attributed to this deeper conviction that you came at this time? The combination of the 40 years, the scale, your wife, building projects, your future, like the idea of really getting your why dialed in versus the structure of Fit Father that may have made it just like more doable and more sustainable. Like, how did these two factors come into play and help you be so successful here? Was one more important
Sure.
than the other? And not necessarily comparative, but how did those two aspects interplay? The structure of the program
Hmm.
itself, sustainability, and this motivational component. How do you really think and feel about that?
Sure. So, I mean, I would say the two go hand in hand. Um, I've lost 85 pounds now, since last November. And, you mentioned the why. I spent the first 2 weeks after I signed up for the program, I didn't start the workouts. I knew I was terribly out of shape. Um, and I was committed. So I decided that I was going to read all of the literature. I was going to do all the pre work. I
Mhm.
was going to know what the plan was, know what the meal plans, the diets, the recipes, have kind of plan out how I was going to tackle those first 30 days based on what your instruction was telling me to do. And, the reason I was so determined to follow that as closely as I could was because I had this deeper conviction. And part of those first 2 weeks was really contemplating what are my whys. And you have that early on, right in the process. So that question, when I was reading through the literature, at first, I considered just doing like I've done in the past and go, well, that's getting into deep, stuff that I don't know that I really need to dig into all that. And then I paused and I thought, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to stick with it and I'm going to make a change, but not just a temporary change like the past, but a change that lasts, that I will maintain, then I really need to boil this down and determine what is my why. Because if I have a strong why and I'm going to continue to be reminded of that why, then I can not only accomplish the goals that I'm setting out to accomplish, but uh, I can also maintain them. And
Mhm.
we had some friends here last night, and I've known them for probably 20 years. So they've known me at my biggest, and they've known me when I've lost the weight. And I say I've lost weight a couple of times. I've been between like 30 and 40 pounds of where I am right now. So I've never been this small. I'm at 196 is my low right now,
Nice.
and the lowest I got in the past, probably 8 or 10 years ago, was 225. And then about 5 years ago, I got down to I think it was 237, 238. And I couldn't seem to get any lower than that. And this
Mhm.
time I'm at 196. And I know if I want to, I can lose some more. I don't feel like my age is a factor at this point. I feel like it's really just my determination, because I have the tools to do it. So, anyways, he asked me last night, he said, do you really feel like what you're doing is sustainable? This is something that you can maintain long term. And I said, absolutely. I've never been on a plan and followed a routine, whether it be diet, exercise, a combination of the two, where I felt like the diet is sustainable, the workouts are sustainable, and this is something that I can maintain long term. And I know it is, and that's fully what I intend to. So,
That's fantastic. And I'm
yeah.
so happy for you. I mean, just not obviously just the results, but the internal feeling and clarity that you have something that works for you long term and that you're off like this cycle of feeling like you need to search something out or knowing that this is short term. It's just there's a lot of freedom in that, knowing that you have this routine that's so aligned for
Absolutely.
you. And like, nutrition is a huge part of that. So I want to know like what
Hmm.
worked for you well nutritionally, like what
Hmm.
routine Fit Father helped you find that was unique to you, and the
Yep.
details of how that interplays with your schedule and your life. And along the way,
Hmm.
if you can, also how that might have been different than stuff you would have tried in the past with just trying a quote unquote paleo, or if you dropped any, any dogma or different ideas that might have held you back. Like, let's kind of dive into the nutrition in any of those avenues.
Sure. So in the past, like I said, I did some paleo keto-ish type stuff, and those diets are pretty restrictive. You can't really have carbs. You can some with paleo, but tried not to. I tried to be keto, but I called it paleo because I did have some carbs here and there. And I've always found that even on that type of a diet, I have to exercise in order to lose weight. I don't know if it's just the way my metabolism's built. Maybe I wasn't strict enough on keto. I don't know, but I've never lost more than a few pounds strictly with diet and not exercising. That being said, the first 2 weeks on Fit Father Project, all I did was eat the diet, and I lost, I think, 12 pounds or so. So
Wow.
this program proved that theory wrong. I don't think I probably would have got where I am now. I mean, maybe not, at least not this fast if I didn't include the workouts. But um, what worked for me on this plan was I ate the sandwiches a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that was a good plan for me. That worked out really well. So I did that. I actually had one for lunch today. We made the chili, and we'd just make like a double batch and stockpile on it and keep that in the fridge. And I would take that out in a pinch if, we didn't have a meat and vegetable and good starch option for dinner. Or actually last year I coached basketball, and we go to all these games, and there's concessions, and after the games a lot of times the team goes out for McDonald's or something to that effect. And um, 2 years ago I participated in all of that, ate the concessions, we went out to eat afterwards, and I was playing basketball several times a week, so I wasn't necessarily gaining a lot of weight, but I wasn't healthy either. um, this year we got a little thermos with a spoon, and I put the chili in there all heated up, and I took my chili every single game, every single practice. And I'd eat chili, or I had a sandwich in a little lunchbox, and I would eat that afterwards. And I followed the plan. So I do the breakfast smoothie every day. Probably once every 2 weeks, I might have eggs and a meat,
Mm-hmm.
like a typical breakfast type food, but uh, probably 13 out of 14 days or more, I'm having a breakfast smoothie, unless I'm doing a 24-hour fast or something like that.
Sure.
Um, and then lunch is a sandwich. Sometimes I'll do the chili for lunch. And then dinner is either chili or a perfect plate kind of meal.
Mm-hmm.
Those things have been staples for me. Now, I'm in a unique situation. A lot of guys go to a 9 to 5 job or whatever. They have a job they go to as a pastor, and we also raise dogs here at home, my wife and I. So I work from home. That gives me a little more leniency as far as meals and not needing to be as heavy on meal prepping. But
Yeah.
we do some of that. I have, anytime we make a perfect plate, always have leftovers
Yep.
purposefully so that I've got a meal or two that I can eat, for a lunch another day or a different dinner day. So, those are some of the things that have really worked well for us, and I should say for me, that have worked well
Mm-hmm.
for me. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I mean, it's just so clear you found your go-to foods for breakfast
Yep.
being the shake, lunch being
Hmm.
some kind of sandwich template. Obviously, the chili is massive for you, highly
Yeah.
portable, easy to make in bulk batch. And then you're
Hmm.
expressing your value of sticking to this every time you plan ahead and bring that stuff out to a basketball game, etc.
Yeah.
How is you eating this way interplayed with your family and your kids?
Mhm.
Your wife following similar-ish meals or any changes that she's made along this, your kids watching you go through this journey. Let's talk about like the impact of the nutrition specifically with your family.
Yeah. So, the kids, I don't know, they didn't get my metabolism, we'll say that. So they don't have to be as strict to stay, to stay in good shape. They're also young, so that makes a big difference and active. But they eat more of the meals that we eat as a family, because my wife, or I, sometimes I cook more now than I did before because I want to make sure I'm eating these things. So, we have the perfect plate meals a lot for dinner. So everybody gets a meat and we eat a lot more rice now compared to white potatoes. So they're eating more of that compared to the potatoes. The vegetables, they're eating vegetables that maybe we didn't eat as much, like asparagus. I
Yeah.
love asparagus, and so we get that a lot. Brussels sprouts. The kids aren't so keen on those, but my wife and I will eat them and like them. She's eating the same thing I do most of the time. She has tweaked the some of the portions of the things in there or the size of the meal because I was pretty much putting a plate for her the same as mine, and she'd go. One day I realized I'm like, that is more calories than what you might be thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like the chili, I gave her a full bowl, and it's like 560 calories, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's almost half of her daily calorie intake because she's only 5 feet and like 115 pounds, something like
Right.
that. She's small. So when I realized that, which was pretty early on, and she's active, so it was fine. But so yeah, we eat a lot of the same stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the kids are doing some of the smoothies with me now. The kids actually, the boys and I work out together sometimes.
Nice.
Did a Murph. We just did a Murph together for Memorial Day.
Cool.
So that was fun, and so stuff that I always thought would be really cool to do that kind of stuff with my kids, but never thought I could actually do it. So
Yeah. What have they said as they've watched you lose weight? I mean, they've literally seen you lose 85 pounds in under a year. So it's like,
yeah.
what has feedback been from them as they watch you do this?
The kids, they're frequently, they'd frequently tell me they're proud of me, and just how awesome it is that I've done this. And when we did the Murph, they were just hugging on me and telling me how proud they were that I was able to do it. And I remember probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, I went downstairs. We'd already gone to bed, and I had my shirt off, and I walked downstairs, and my son looks at me and he goes, "Dad, are you sucking in?" And I said, "No, what do you mean?" And he goes, "Oh my word, I cannot believe it. I haven't seen you with your shirt off for a while." And he just could not believe what he was seeing. And, he was just, "That's so awesome, Dad. That's amazing." And, my wife is constantly telling me how proud she is of me and how excited she is that I've made these changes. And she talks about she can't believe what I do now, the energy I have and the projects and the things I get done that I used to just put off and wouldn't do. I've heard her tell family members multiple times on the phone or when they're talking about how different I look, and she just tells them how she can't believe, she'll be talking about doing something and I jump up and say, "I got it." And I would have never done that before. I just sat there and said, "Well, I wish I could do that for her, but I just don't feel like it. But
Yeah.
I'm doing that stuff now." And so,
Well, I mean, that
yeah.
how powerful is that distinction that you are a man, obviously, whose life is oriented towards service, and in the
Mm,
past you just wouldn't have felt like it because you didn't have the life energy and the physical energy to do so. And now that
right.
you do, you are so empowered to actually serve more and express your values more. And that's not
Hmm.
something we even really realize, but it's so apparent to me now that you just have so much more capacity, and that's going to show up in the church, obviously in your
Yep.
family, and I'm
Hmm.
sure in your mental health too. So maybe that's a nice segue into talking about just how you feel about yourself internally now that you're at this state.
Yeah. I've dealt with just depression off and on throughout the years. I didn't know what it was for a long time. I just knew I felt bad and mentally felt bad about myself, and a lot of times attributed it to weight and just, family stuff in the past and things like that, and would just always kind of um, deal with that. And probably we're in 14, about 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, I had a nervous breakdown and had to leave my job that I was working at the time, which, we God took care of it. Our dog breeding business was at a place where between that and the church, what they're able to pay me, we were able to live and survive and be fine, and it has worked out better for us. But all of those struggles over the last several years haven't made me feel any better about myself. And then, I would often eat myself into trying to make myself feel better. I'd eat the foods and the things and sit on the couch at night and snack things that I shouldn't, whether it was nachos or chips or whatever, just eat stuff that I shouldn't, and as a way to try to make myself feel better. And it never did, but it tasted good. So I thought it was. Going through this process, some of the things that I've viewed this as is not only physical training, but also mental training. And, something the Bible says, the Apostle Paul talks about, learning to possess his vessel, and that he can control and he can manage, and he has control of himself and of his body. And, I got part of that conviction was I needed to learn to be able to say no to things that weren't good for me.
Yeah.
I needed to learn to say yes to things that I didn't feel like doing or that were hard, but are good for me. So, that really came into play as I was, eating the diet. And at times I look at how much I was able to eat, and I thought, is that going to be enough? And I always was satisfied. It was always enough. The snacks are great. And, almonds and apple, that almost every day is my snack, and it works great. I've made some beef jerky, and that's helped too, so, I've always had enough, never felt like I was starving or was going to, but mentally, at least in the beginning, I was worried about it. I'm thinking, is that going to be enough food? The workouts are hard. So I had to force myself at times to do the workouts and not wimp out on them. Not, I had to push myself even when I didn't feel like pushing myself, especially early on. The Renegade Rows are great, but I don't love them. they're hard.
I don't either, for what it's worth.
They're hard, but I know that it has made a huge impact on changing my body and changing my health.
Yeah.
So all of those things, seeing the difference in the mirror, seeing the difference in how I feel, experiencing the difference in being able to do things I couldn't do before. And then I do look at a lot of this as training myself to do hard things so that I can endure hard things,
Yeah.
and stay on course when it's difficult. So all that, I believe, has helped me mentally to be stronger, to be tougher, and to handle the lows better.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're as bad or as frequent as they were. So, yeah.
Really well said. Beautiful answer. I want to kind of get a little deeper into exercise. And I mean, you started doing these workouts when you were around 280 pounds. I mean, that's a considerable amount of weight to be moving around on rows and push-ups and squats. And I know that was hard for you. And now being so much lighter, I know the workouts are still challenging, but challenging in a different way, like probably a more enjoyable way as you become more fit. Take us through the trajectory of your workouts. You've gone through, I believe you're in phase 3 of FF30X. So you've been training this system for, 6 plus, 8 months or so. Like how's it progressed through exercise? What was the initial phase like? How did you push through those really hard times? And how is the workouts continue to challenge you in the subsequent phases? Kind of let's take us through the workout journey.
Yeah. So when we start, of course, Apex 10, My first Apex 10, I think I did up through level 5 or 6 and went back down. And push-ups were mostly on my knees. I think I did the first 2 or 3 levels on my, feet,
Hmm.
and then I had to go to my knees. And rows were right from the beginning on my knees. That wasn't happening. So I started with that, and after I did that, I went on to the which I actually still Facebook at that time.
Hmm.
And I saw some guys starting out saying that they went up through phase 10 on their knees. And I thought, well, at first, I thought, well, if I can't do it all the way, then I should probably cut out early and try to keep building at that lower level. But a couple of the guys, I think, I don't remember specifically now, but some of the guys who've been here for a long time, Shane and Don and
Hmm.
some of those guys, they said, well, ideally, if you can go all the way up to level 10 and back down, even if you're on your knees for the whole thing, it's going to provide more value for you than if you um, just go to level 5 and back, if you're able. So the second time I did Apex, I just pushed myself all the way to level 10 and back. And I mean, at times I thought I was going to pass out. I was nauseous at times. It was extremely hard, but I did it. And a couple guys said, I'd post that on the app, and a couple guys would, talk about how awesome that was and to stick with it, and it's going to get easier. And I thought, this is never getting easier, but I just kept doing it. And, I think it took 2 or 3 weeks, and I was doing all the push ups on my feet. I
Nice.
wasn't hitting my knees on the push ups at all. And I mean, at that point, I think I'd lost 20 pounds or so, something
Hmm.
like that. So, I mean, that made a difference, but also my strength was increasing and the inflammation was going down. So, and by the time that first month was over, I think I did a couple extra weeks on phase 1. Um, I was doing the whole thing on my feet, rows, push ups. I wasn't going on my knees for any of it. So I felt like at that point I was ready for the next round, and then DT hit, and I thought, man, I
Hmm.
thought the apex was bad, and it got worse, or got hard again. Just when I felt like it was getting a little easier, it started getting harder again. But that was actually perfect because, like I was saying before about the mental training, we can get comfortable and complacent doing the easy thing. So the
Yeah.
new workout was a new challenge. It was fun to learn something new and change it up. It made it so it wasn't getting boring doing the same thing over and over again. It just kind of kept it fresh. So um, each time I start a new phase or a new month in the phase, I usually drop the weights a little bit until I get comfortable with those movements, usually that first week. And then I'll up them, and then I'll up them until, I kind of get to that level where I feel like I'm where I need to be. So, that's kind of been my process, but I love the workouts. I love strength training. That's always been, I got friends that run all the time. I've got, well, I'll say friends on the app that run a lot. And
Hmm.
man, it blows my mind when they're talking about running 6, 8, 10 miles. And I'm thinking, man, I'd rather swing a kettlebell for 24 hours than run that long. I mean, it's just not my cup of tea, but
Yeah.
uh, I ran a 5K when I was training for the Murph, just not official. I just ran the 3.1 miles from my house and just to see if I could do it. And I did. And,
Hmm.
so just pushing myself to do things that physically are difficult. This training program has helped me get to a state mentally where I could do that, and succeed at it. So, yeah,
Nice. And you've done
yeah.
so many different workouts now from being in, the three phases. It's
Hmm.
cool. I mean, it's learning. You have a lot of tools in your tool belt now, which is amazing. You have some things
Yeah.
you like and, some things you can apply. So how have you managed like traveling or if that's been a part or vacations or, some of the
Hmm.
things that trip a lot of guys up? Do you have any protocols for that when you're, have aspects of life that are quote unquote a little off the normal routine?
Sure. Well, my family, we went on vacation back in May, I think it was. We went down to Washington, D.C. for 3 days and then went to Williamsburg, Virginia for a week. And I was honestly probably, well, we took a short vacation earlier back in the fall, winter time, not long after we started. And I was diehard. I can't cheat. I can't do anything off plan. I need to stick with this, bring kettlebells with me, so that I could do my workouts even when there wasn't a gym or anything available. And, which were all good, but my stress over the food did probably take some of the fun out of it for my family. So
Right.
back in May, when we went on this 10-day vacation, my wife talked to me and she said, we're going to do our best to keep things good for you, but you got to relax a little bit and not be so intense. You've gotten to a pretty good place, still have more to go, but it's not going to kill you to have some cheats for 10 days. And we were staying at places that had gyms so I could continue to maintain my workouts.
Mm-hmm.
I brought some kettlebells anyways, just in case they didn't have the right weight or they didn't have two. So anyways, we did that. We went, we ate out quite a bit, but I just made good choices, perfect plate type choices, or, low carb choices. I tried to eat as clean as we could, with a few cheats here or there, but tried to just do well. And I maintained the workouts, and I came back from 10 days of vacation and I had lost 2 or 3 pounds,
Wow.
so, I just, even with the cheats, it just was, it was, I was shocked. I really was. I thought for sure it was going to be trouble, and I'm a guy that can say no to desserts pretty well. I don't have to have the sweets. I mean, the cup of frozen berries, I do that quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
at night, right after I eat. So it's not like late at night. But that's been huge for me. I do like ice cream a lot, and that kind of fills that or satisfies that craving for something cold and somewhat sweet, so,
Yeah,
um,
that's an important subtle point for sure. I mean, knowing that you like the ice cream, that's something that makes you feel like you're not deprived. You're having something cold and sweet, except substantially healthier. I love that.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so what's some advice you have for guys who are like starting out? They're in the beginning of the journey, or maybe advice you would have given yourself as you were starting out on this, or advice you would have given yourself when you were trying weight loss in the past in different ways.
Sure. Well, it was some advice I got when I first started this program. You can't out exercise a bad diet.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one that really helped me out a lot. Um, Also, just embrace the hardness, the difficult things. Just accept it's gonna be hard. Really buckle down and be dedicated and committed. Um, if you fall off the wagon once or twice, just accept it, forgive yourself, and get back on, keep going. And then, well, I forgot the other one, so it probably wasn't important, but just, just being faithful, just sticking at it. I've got a brother-in-law that I've been trying to get to sign up for Fit Father Project for a while, and he keeps thinking about it and toying with it. And he told me he was going to for the Father's Day sale. If not, I think he will eventually, but, um, he, what I was telling him was take your time at the beginning and read through all the information like I did. Um, just read through it, digest it, get to a place where you're not going to have it all memorized, but you feel pretty confident that you know what you're about to start doing, and you can kind of have a plan. And then take the time to really answer the questions that are asked, like the whys. I think that was really important, and it still sticks with me now, 8 months in,
Mm-hmm.
going back. I still think about that frequently. Why am I doing this? And
Mm-hmm.
people ask me sometimes, when I first started, my chiropractor asked me, he said, well, what's your motivation for doing this? Because he said, if you just want to get skinny and you want to look built, he said, then, well, he didn't say it until after I answered his question. I told him why, it was family and ministry. Um, and he said, okay, he said, those are good reasons. Those are reasons that will sustain you. But he said, if it's all about what you look like, then a lot of times people fall off the bandwagon for that. You need the deeper whys.
For
So
sure.
yeah,
That's excellent. Now, what advice do you have for yourself now in a more of a veteran position? You've been around the block. You have some stuff that works for you. Like, what
Mhm.
advice do you tell yourself, or do you hear regularly, or think about at this stage in your journey?
Sure. Well, I would say stick with it. And, the cheat here or there is okay, but don't fall into the old traps, the old habits. If life gets exceptionally busy and I miss some workouts, just buckle down and get back on them as soon as I can. If
Mm-hmm.
if I miss a couple of days, don't miss 7 days, or don't miss 2 weeks or whatever. Just keep plugging them in where I can and make that a priority. Keep that a priority. So yeah.
Excellent. Now, a couple final questions. One is, in your ministry as a pastor, now that you're healthier, like, what impact has this had on your spiritual walk, and also
Mhm.
in your leadership and how you show up in church?
Sure. Well, I have a lot more energy. So, I think people see that energy both when I'm, up front preaching. Um, I also, like to help people with their projects when I can. And I feel like physically now I can do more of that as, time allows and when opportunity presents itself. Um, I'm able to encourage people when they're dealing with health problems. We
Yeah.
live in America. Most people are dealing with health issues, weight issues, and sadly, a lot of it's self-inflicted. It was for me. I just was doing it to myself. So, it's not even always people at my own church. Sometimes it's other friends, pastor friends, or people in other churches, or family members, that are, man, how did you do this? What did you do? And I talk to them about it and tell them, and that's really been helpful for people, and giving them some guidance, and hopefully see more of them sign up for Fit Father Project. And it won't be small changes that they make, but big changes that they make. But that's been really good. And also, I feel like I try to really study what I'm going to preach and teach. I want it to be as accurate and as biblical as possible. And I feel like I have more mental clarity and capacity to digest information, to digest
Mm-hmm.
what I'm reading, to digest what I'm studying. And I don't get tired as quickly when I'm doing that. I used to fatigue out a lot sooner.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful for me. And, just taking the time to spend time with God and grow in those areas. I feel like I'm better at that now than I used to be. So
That's
yeah,
excellent. So
yeah,
excellent. All right, my final question.
yeah.
It's 40 years from now. You're
Okay.
around 82, or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
And just exactly as you planned when you were on this scale, like, looking back that many years, you're there. What does life look like for you? What has happened? Like, what's your family
Mhm,
like? What's your ministry like? What's your
mhm.
body like? What do you see?
Sure. Well, uh, prayerfully, I'm still in great shape. I mean, that's what I plan to do, is continue to stay active, continue to move some weights around. I don't know what that looks like at 82 years old yet, but continue to move weights around to maintain some muscle and strength. I'll have grandkids at that point. I would hope, and
Yeah.
maybe great grandkids at that point. I don't know, and it'd be great to be able to do things with them, and be able to not just sit on a couch all the time or in a recliner, and but be able to go on walks with the grandkids, or go push them on a swing, go take a hike with them. And
Hmm.
I'd like to stay active with them, and be able to enjoy them as much as possible, and be around with them as long as possible, and you know be with my wife as long as possible. And we've always talked about someday I'll have to probably retire from the pastorate, because I won't have the stamina and the energy to continue to pastor a flock, if you will, a group of people. but I never plan to retire from the ministry. So when that day comes, I'd love to be able to be in a church that has a young pastor and just be able to be there and be a help and a support to them as much as possible. And keeping myself healthy will determine whether or not I can do that or not. So, that's where I'm at. I look back and see all those things, and depending where my kids are, my wife and I talk about maybe getting a motorhome or a camper and doing a little traveling when the kids are grown and out of the house, and be able to do that, it'd be great. So,
man,
yeah,
such a beautiful vision, super aligned with everything you're creating and already have done. And I just want to say, seriously, congratulations on all the work you've put in and what you've experienced in, a relatively short period of time. I know it's been a heroic effort and commitment to get to where you're at. And I know you feel like that value equation is totally worth it, but still, to lose close to 100 pounds, increase your physical fitness as much as you have, get your life aligned in so many ways, to have the energy. It's amazing. It's the exact definition of a fit father success story. And so I am very touched by that. I know my team is incredibly proud of you. All the brothers that will get the chance to listen to this, probably while they're swinging kettlebells or out on a run, they're drawing inspiration from you. So thanks, brother, for doing this and for sharing. It means so much to me and to our community.
Well, I want to say thank you to you and to Ben and to Steve and the Fit Father staff and the brothers on the community. I mean, if you hadn't created this program, there's a pretty strong probability I'd still be 282 pounds, give or take. I wouldn't be where I'm at now. So your plan, your program, just how thorough it is, how doable it is, and how maintainable it is what helped me get here. So thank you. It's helped me be a better husband, a better father, a better man, and a better pastor. So thank you to you. You have certainly made a huge difference in my life, my family's life. So appreciate it.
I receive that. Thanks so much, Nate. God bless,
yes,
brother.
Sir.
I appreciate you.
You too. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Fit Father Project podcast. If you love what you heard, please rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really helps spread this show to more men who need this valuable info. To watch full video episodes of this podcast and other motivational videos to inspire your training and more, visit our Fit Father Project YouTube channel. It's free and everything's made for busy guys over 40 like you. Visit youtube.com/Fit Father Project to get access to our entire video library. And finally, if you or someone in your life is interested in becoming a fit father or needs help losing weight, building muscle, and living healthier after age 40, then visit fitfatherproject.com, where you can see our proven programs, supplement line for guys 40 plus, and free meal plan and workouts to get you started. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi signing off. I'll see you in the next episode.